I still hear your laughter down this empty hall. Your picture's on the nightstand, but it don't talk at all. The coffee's cold, the bed feels twice as wide, and every night I reach for you, but you're not by my side. I know I let you slip right through my hands, but I'm still your fool, still your biggest fan. Come back and stay, don't walk away. I'll change my ways if it takes every day. These arms are yours, they've always been. Come back and stay, let's start again. I replay every fight, every word I should have held. I see your tears falling when I wasn't myself. This old guitar don't sing like it used to do, 'cause every song's about how I'm missing you. I know I let you slip right through my hands, but I'll do anything to be your man. Come back and stay, don't walk away. I'll change my ways if it takes every day. These arms are yours, they've always been. Come back and stay, let's start again. I'll burn my pride, I'll beg, I'll pray. Darling, don't turn your heart away. The door's unlocked, the light's still on, and my love for you is still this strong. Come back and stay, don't walk away. I'll change my ways if it takes every day. These arms are yours, they've always been. Come back and stay, let's start again. Come back and stay, baby, come back and
So I think we are ready to go. So thank you everyone for joining at this moment. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from around the globe. We want to welcome you to the November series of from the Ivan Research Institute. So this is our 11th webinar this year, and we have the privilege to have a very distinguished speaker in our midst. And I will just, in a couple of seconds, introduce him to us. So Professor Oliver Ezechi will be speaking to us this evening. He is the current vice chair of the National Health Research Ethics Committee of Nigeria. He's a very distinguished scholar in maternal and reproductive child health and infectious diseases. He's currently a professor at the City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, and he has several adjunct professorship positions to his credit. He graduated from the University of Benin from the medicine and surgery, and he has several other degrees and awards. He's also a fellow of the Academy of Medical Specialties of Nigeria, as well as a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Medicine. He's also a director of research at the Nigeria Institute of Medical Research, and he's also director at the Center for Reproduction and Population Studies. He has authored 5 books. He's a contributor to numerous book chapters and has over 250 peer-reviewed publications. And he's married to the lovely Dr. Lillian, and they have 3 adult children. So without much ado, I'm going to be asking Professor Oliver to go ahead and give us the lecture. Thank you so much, sir, for honoring our invitation. We're excited and happy to be here as you talk to us about navigating Nigeria's ethical landscape and giving us practical guidelines for institutional review board compliance and high impact fact research. Thank you so much. And just before you speak, I know that there is a questionnaire, I think you would like us to complete.
Yes, it's about trying to get information, the challenges people are having with trying to submit
Okay.
a protocol. Please, if people can complete the Google form, that will help. I will take it back to Enric.
Okay. Have you shared it, or have you shared it with us on the chat?
It's on you. No, I send it to you. Which
Okay.
can help me
All
share.
right. I will put it there. So I'll put it there while the lecture is going on. Yes. Thank you.
Can they see my slide now?
So go ahead, sir.
Can they see it now?
Yes, we can. But yes, we can see your slides. But yes, excellent now.
Okay. Thank you, Tonia, for the beautiful introduction. At a stage, I was thinking, is that me or somebody else? Colleagues, I'm happy to represent the ENREC as the current vice chair. The chairman graciously asked me to talk about navigating Nigeria's ethical landscape, the IRB ENREC compliance and high impact research in Nigeria. Hopefully, in the next 45 minutes, I will do justice to that. We all are aware that Nigeria hosts rich scientific activity. Yet there are delays and rework of submissions are very common. Ethics, regulation, and data governance often clash in Nigeria, and all this slow the startup of any research. Fragmentation stems from a weak risk-benefit analysis. Often, researchers often overestimate the benefits and minimizes the risk. And when they submit their protocol, when some of these things are highlighted, that delays the approval process. Often, data plans are vague, and researchers are unaware of the regulatory requirement for what they want to do. So, an integrated approach is actually needed. And I can confirm here that ENREC and NAFDAC are beginning to work together in order to shorten their approval time and also to make things easier. Why is ethics and regulation important? They build trust, ensures validity to what we do, and that's the only way we can achieve real-world impact. The consequences of non-compliance includes when you don't comply to either the ethics or to regulatory requirements, if there's delays in the approval, the data you're obtaining is also at risk, can fall into wrong hands. There may be harm to participants, loss of funding for research he wants to do, and then often the research output is of low quality. So in the course of this lecture, this should be our learning objective. First is to identify ethical requirements across ideas, protocol, and dissemination. So we'll look at the ethical requirements. Look at how to translate our ideas into ethics-aligned protocols with the required documents. We'll also look at how to navigate sequential approval, NREC and NAFDAC for new products, and how to integrate the Nigerian Data Protection Agency Act, the content of it, in our consenting process, in data handling, and the sharing. And then also build a practical, implementable 3 to 6 months with pre-approval workflow, that when we need to apply these things, we need to give sufficient time, often 3 to 6 months, for us to get all the requirement. Often we just wake up and eureka, we want to apply and we want to get it today. You need to pre-plan. Looking at Nigerian research landscape, ethics, regulation, and data protection form a triad, not just in Nigeria, but in globally. While the ethics are the apex, data protection is a base, and the side of the triangles is the regulation. This is the research landscape. For you to be able to conduct high quality research, these three have to come together. In Nigeria, National Health Research Ethics Committee guides national ethical standards and oversight. The local IRBs, or NREC, as we call them in Nigeria, translates this NREC expectation to local levels. NAFDAC is the agency that regulates drugs, devices, and biologics in research, while Nigerian Data Protection Commission and Nigerian Data Protection Act governs the privacy, data security, and transfer. These are the three agencies that govern the research, the ecosystem in the country. And as researchers, we also need to learn how to navigate this. It's the NX that set national ethical expectations. It oversees health research ethics and protocol approvals. And it's also gateway for phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials. What it means that all phase 1 clinical trials can only be approved by NREC. Whether you are doing that alone in your facility, phase 1 clinical trial goes to NREC for ethical approval. Some level of early phase 2 clinical trial also goes to NREC. It's only the NREC that are category 1 that can address phase 2B. So we need to know this. Like I said earlier, the Health Research Ethics Committees at the universities, at institutions, at the states, at the local gateway for ethical clearance. NREC also ensures that participants are protected, their rights and welfare across studies are respected. And NREC also monitors ongoing research for compliance with standards. Once either NREC or HEREC approves the research, they must monitor the acts. mandates them to monitor that research. So no ethics committee should approve a research they are not able to monitor. What it means that you cannot be in Enugu and you approve a research in Kaduna, and you now start complaining about how do we go there, transportation costs, who pays for that? What it means that you should not have approved that protocol. To make things easier, EREC now have an electronic portal. You can now submit your protocol if it qualifies to be submitted to EREC. You can submit that online. With time, EREC also want to also link the local institutional ethics committee also to this platform. All this is to make things better and easier for researchers. EREC code is like a document presently now and is being reviewed that EREC use to govern health research ethics in the country. EREC code, or called National Code for Health Research Ethics in Nigeria, it was created by National Health Research Ethics Committee. It establishes ethical guidelines for all health research involving human subjects in Nigeria, and this to ensure protection of the rights and welfare and well-being of participants. And this is the basis for the operations of EREC, and also to ensure consistency and uniformity in ethical reviews processes across the country. This is the Bible or Quran of Health Research Ethics Committee in the country. And if it's downloadable, you can download it online. If you are a researcher, you must have this, and you must have read it cover to cover, because most questions people ask are there, but it's also going, produced in 2007, is due for updates, and EREC is currently looking into it. Please, if you read through it and you feel there's a section that needs to be updated, please feel free to send that like a reminder to EREC. The EREC's responsibility, National Health Research Ethics Committee responsibility, includes, it regulates ethics of research in the country. It also regulates and registers ethics committee in the country. If ethics committee is your institution or your state is not registered with EREC or not approved by EREC, what it means that it's not an ethics committee and it's not binding by law. Remember, National Health Act is what empowers EREC to do what it's supposed to do. So if any ethics committee is not registered by EREC, is an illegal ethics committee. EREC also adjudicates when there's a problem or issue between researcher and their local ethics committee. You can report that to EREC. EREC itself can act as an ethics committee in some situations. Apart from doing regulation and adjudication, it also acts as an ethics committee, especially in multi-institutional research, clinical trial phase 1 and 2, and then international research that involve sample transfer. You need to get a material transfer agreement from EREC. You cannot transfer any sample outside Nigeria, research sample outside Nigeria, without obtaining material transfer agreements. So let's look at EREC's role in review of research. This is a detail of when EREC may review research. If you have a research that is nationwide in coverage, you have to go to EREC. You cannot obtain that from a local institution. Or if you have a research that involves more than 3 sites in Nigeria, you have to go to EREC. EREC may also be review a protocol that has been referred by a local ethics committee, taking that it's complex, that it thinks that EREC has the emphasis to do that. And also, when an institution does not have any ethics committee, they can refer that to EREC. EREC can now decide and refer it to an EREC ethics committee close to them to review that. If there is any complex research and EREC feels there's inadequate expertise in any of the local institutions, EREC can take that up. At present, EREC requires minimum of 3 months that's the maximum a protocol can stay with EREC. However, that's what is on record, but it will be reviewed. However, the present EREC ensures that no protocol stays with them for more than 2 weeks, especially if the researchers are responsive and willing to respond to queries when they are raised. National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control provides regulatory oversight for medicine and devices. It also regulates manufacture, importation, distribution, and testing. It ensures safety and quality of investigational products. Also gives regulatory approval for trials involving drugs or devices. If you are doing a clinical trial on drugs and devices or medicines, you must go to NAFDAC. Because of the collaboration between NAFDAC and EREC now, you can do what they call simultaneous filing. While you are with EREC for ethical approval, you can also go at the same time with your protocol to NAFDAC for regulatory approval. The essence is shortening the process. Unlike what was being happening before, you go to EREC first. Well, after you finish with EREC, you now have your ethical approval. You now go to NAFDAC. That increases the latency period. Now you can do simultaneous submission to both agencies. It's also important to know that NAFDAC have also a portal, an electronic platform where you can submit all you need to submit. You don't need to get to their office. You can go there and do your submissions, do all the payments you need there. And once you fulfill all those, you get your approval. You don't need to get to NAFDAC. This is seamless. Go to NAFDAC website, click, you go to this portal. You could see it there, application there, new clinical trial application. You can see there. All the needs as relates to clinical trial, you can see. Look at this. If you want to get investigational products permits to bring it into the country, this is where you do that. So all you need, this is like a one-stop shop for all you need to do about clinical trial with NAFDAC is on that website. Then looking at Nigerian Data Protection Commission, it regulates processing of personal data and data subject rights, ensures data security and responsible cross-border transfer of data. You cannot send data outside the country without their knowledge. it requires clear data handling, retention, and destruction policies. NDPC promotes privacy by design in all their research activities. So what it means that by the time you are going to them with their protocol, you should build in place, put in place in that all you require to protect data generated for your research activity. Remember, what is not documented is not done. So you need to document all he wants to do. Nigerian Data Protection Commission introduced clear rules on how organizations in Nigeria must register as data controllers or data processors of major importance. And this was issued under the Nigerian Data Protection Act of 2023. Why does this matter? Because it gives you a guideline on how to protect individual privacy. Also how to meet global data protection and standards, and also have to prevent data breaches that could harm people or our economy. So they classified category of data controllers and data processors on their website. If you go to their website, you could see where you fell into. You could see most government agencies, hospitals, universities fall within major data processing, extra high level. So you need to go there and you also need to register. So you go to the website, your institution need to register. You not when you now want to apply for them for use of the data or data transfer, you have to do this registration like yesterday. So that when any of your institution need to do that, so that when any of your researchers need that, it's easy for you to make that request. What is ethical research globally and nationally? Ethical research respects dignity, rights, safety, and well-being. Research is said to be ethical only when it respects the dignity of the study participants, their rights, protects their safety and well-being. Ethical research also requires scientific integrity, transparency, and accountability. Ethical research emphasizes social value, and also you have to be local relevant. There's no point coming to Nigeria to do a research that has no local relevance. What it means that you finish the research and results are shipped out. Research you are doing in Nigeria should have a social value and local relevance. Let's quickly look at these ethical principles. And ethical research must respect these principles. Respect for autonomy, non-malfeasance, beneficence, and justice. That's duty to treat patients fairly and equitably. And it also ensures fair participant selection. Privacy is cost-cutting and demands secure data handling and retention plans. For research to be ethical, these principles have to be obeyed. You respect for autonomy, respect for community, avoid causing harm and minimize harm to patients. You also minimize risk and then beneficence and justice. Practicalizing ethics in Nigeria. Research protocol must be scientifically valid and also ethically sound. If a research is scientifically invalid, what it means is it's unethical. We also need to understand that a research can be scientifically valid but still unethical. So for ethical research, it needs to be scientifically valid and also ethically sound. Two of them have to go together. You must engage local communities, from the pre-planning stage. It's not just tokenism. You finish developing protocol, you finish everything, you are coming to the community when you finished the protocol. No, you must involve them at the very formative years. And you must honor cultural content. You must be culturally sensitive. You must also comply with EREC expectations and requirements. You must comply with NAFDAC regulatory approvals when required, like in clinical trials. Your data must be governed and they must be aligned to the principle of Nigerian Data Protection Act. We must balance the risk benefits. What it means that we must do a risk benefit analysis, taking local health priorities into consideration. Your ethical analysis must reflect health system constraints and mention how you are going to address it or how are they going to impact on your research. This is practicalizing ethics in Nigeria. If we ensure that our protocol addresses these 7 things, I can tell you that your protocol can be approved within 1 to 2 weeks. Building high impact and ethically sound research. We should aim for real health benefits and those research that inform policy and influence practice, and not just pedestrian research because you want to get a promotion. Plan for the outputs of your research, the uptake of the output of your research from the design phase. As you are planning your research, ensure that output you are going to get from that research is something that once you finish, the policymakers should uptake them. So what it means that you should involve the policymakers and practitioners from the beginning, the users of the output of your work. Ensure that the settings of your research reflects Nigerian diverse realities. Nigerian diversity. NAFDAC will insist if you are doing a clinical trial in Nigeria, minimum of 2 sites, 1 in the south and 1 in the north. Because of pharmacogenetics, people differ, diversity. My advice is usually for you to conduct a meaningful research in Nigeria, minimum of 6 geopolitical zones, because there's a diversity across those geopolitical zones. Invest in capacity building and local collaboration. Don't say there's no capacity to analyze this sample, so therefore I'm shipping them out of the country. Why can't you build that local capacity in your institution? That saves you cost. Build long-term ethics capacity within your teams. Let your team members think and eat ethics, so that as they are writing incorporates ethics from beginning. You must disseminate your findings via policy briefs, practitioners, conferences, and community summaries, not just journals alone. People do work in Nigeria as they talked away in faraway Scandinavian journal. How will the policymakers see that? These are the things you should build completely your research to build a high impact, ethically sound research. Let's look at the pathway to a compliant research. The pathway for you to have a NREC compliant research. From the idea generation, there must be an ethical grounding. As you are generating your idea, you are asking yourself, is this ethically right? Is this ethically sound? From the beginning. As you're developing your protocol, you must have EREC and NAFDAC expectation in mind. Your data protection must be by design and must align with Nigerian Data Protection Act. Start with a concept note in which you share with the communities, in which you share with ethicists, in which you share with everybody, so that they'll have their inputs before you now develop a compliance protocol. And when you finish, you must disseminate. You must have checkpoints at intervals. Looking at idea generation, there must be relevant and social value, address Nigerian specific health needs. You can't, any study you do in Nigeria must address Nigerian specific health needs. You must also do a stakeholders mapping. Be patient communities, clinicians, regulators, funders. Do that and let them incorporate their input into your idea. Always remember equity and inclusion, and ensure your ideas avoid exploitation. You must do what is called risk-benefit framing. You must identify maximum acceptable risk. The practicality. Some people will write a proposal and tell you we cannot increase the sample size because of resources. Research is never an emergency. Even during emergency, research is never an emergency. If you don't have research, if you don't have resources to manage the research, please don't embark on it. You must develop local capacity to help you to do the work. And your research must be translated into practice. Community engagement plan, you must include that in your protocol. You must discuss benefit sharing and post-trial access consideration. You cannot finish doing the work in Nigeria, and Nigeria cannot afford to buy the product of that research. So you must discuss benefit sharing and post-trial benefits or access before that work is concluded. They must be in your protocol. You must document your deliverables. There must be a sketch of risk benefits. There must also be a risk mitigation plan. There's no research without a risk. So you must have a risk mitigation plan. When some researchers will tell you there are no risk in this research, it's not true. Even if it's a needle prick, it's a risk. Somebody can develop an infection from that. So there's no research without a risk. So from that idea, you now have to produce a protocol that is in alignment with EREC. The core section of your protocol should be in plain language. It should be in language that when a JSS3 person is reading it, the person understands it. Remember, not everybody in the ethics committee that are scientists. The lay person of the ethics committee are not scientists. And you are writing a jargon. And you think you should be able to break it down. There must be a rationale for what you want to do. There must be an objective. There must be a design, a population intervention. How data will be handled, safety, consent issues, community engagement, timelines, budget, dissemination. So these are the core protocol elements that NREC expects to see. There are some modifications depending on the type of research you want to do. There must be title and abstract, and there must be accurate and no hype. The title should be like a mini synopsis of what you want to do. By looking at the title, the person should have an idea of what it's all about. And by the time I finish reading the abstract, I should, in my brain, know what this is likely to be. Then there should be a background. And it have to be Nigeria-specific context are needed. You have to narrow down to why that study is important in Nigeria. Your objective, there should be primary, in which your sample size calculation will be dependent on, and also be secondary. Primary must be achieved in that research, and secondary, and then your objective must be smart. Your design and justification for using that particular design, is it RCT, is it cohort, is it qualitative? You must justify why that design. Population and setting, you must state them clearly. Sampling frame you are going to adopt, inclusion, exclusion criteria, you must say that. A lot of protocol will receive things, inclusion is opposite of exclusion. No, it's not. Exclusion are people who are ordinarily qualified to be included in this study, but for what is the other, either for safety concerns or for confounding, you are excluding them. They are not one and opposite. These are some of the things that you see people who said inclusion was 18 years of age, exclusion less than 18. No, they are not one and opposite. These are basic things you see, and you have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This looks very elementary, but these are some of the things. You know, some of the protocols submitted are done in a hurry. You must state the interventions and comparators, dosing clearly, procedures detailed, standard of care detailed. Outcomes and measurements, you have to define them. The instruments, you have to state them. The timing, you have to state clearly. Sample size, state, and rationale for that sample size. Your assumptions, your power calculations, your interim analysis have to be very clear. Your data management plan, your data sources, quality assurance, security of data, you have to be included. Core elements of protocol that NREC requires continues. You must have a statistical analysis plan as you are submitting your protocol. Don't say, when I collect my data, I will now start. No, you have to tell people before you start collecting your data how you are going to analyze your data, both primary and secondary, and how you are going to handle missing data. You have to state this upfront. Safety monitoring, adverse event reporting, the stop rules, DSMB, Constitution, if required. Your informed consent, the process, the translation, the comprehension checks. You have to say that clearly in your protocol. Your community engagement activities and accountability, you have to be in your protocol. Timelines and milestones, critical pathways, you have to state them. Your budget, allocations, and justification. Because your budget will tell me whether you know what you actually say you are going to do. I'm primarily a gynecologist. I'm public health. If I want to write a budget for the laboratory component, I need a lab person who have developed that section of protocol, who knows how to cause those things, to cause them, and I'll match them together. If I start costing laboratory activities, I'm likely to either under budget or over budget. By looking at a budget, that will tell me whether this team knows what they want to do or not. Imagine a work that will cost about 10,000 to do, and you are budgeting 100,000 because you don't know how that is done. Dissemination and data sharing, authorship, access issues, you have to discuss them. Limitations and risk mitigation, all this you have to put in the protocol. After you finish your protocol, what are the documentation that NREC requires for you to submit? Full protocol with all sections and appendices. Your full protocol, not a 1-page or 2-page document or 3-page document, but a full protocol with all sections and appendices. You've seen what are presented that should be the core element of the protocol. By the time you finish, there's no way you can have less than 5 pages. Informed consent in local languages. Assent where applicable. Participant information sheet and readability assessments. Recruitment material, screening tools, and eligibility. Investigator qualifications, CVs, certifications. Insurance and compensation for data protection plan that align with the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Risk management plan and DSMB charter, if required. Renewal and amendments. These are all the things you have to package together and you are submitting to NREC. If any of them missing, NREC is going to write you back to do this. And before you do this, 1 week has passed. You now submit one of them and send back again, and NREC identified that some are missing, it has come back to you. So these are all the documentation you need, and you need to before you send to NREC. If informed consent that works, this, like I said earlier, plain language, culturally appropriate. You must have assent for minors. There must be stressing on biospecimen and future use. You must state that if you are collecting blood samples. Documentation processes, you must include that. Data management, you must state clearly your data flow, your sources, your access control, how you are going to study anonymization strategies, data retention, archives, destruction timeline. You have to state this clear. Data quality assurances, validation checks, data cleaning plans. You have to state all this. Then looking at the data, Nigerian Data Protection Act in practice. The core principle is lawful basis, purpose, limitation, and data minimization. You have to keep to the law. There must be security control. There must be transparency and accountability. There must be access control and deletion and withdrawal when it's not required. For international transfer, there must be adequacy of decision or safeguards, and you must have approval from NDPC. These are practical steps for researchers to ensure your compliance. You must comply data protection impact assessments where privacy risks exist. You must draft clear concept for data processing and sharing. You must implement encryption, secure servers and access control. You must minimize PPI and use study IDs where possible. Establish data sharing agreements with the collaborators, maintain processing activity logs, and retention schedule. For regulatory pathway for clinical trial, like I said earlier, there are a two-track model, ethics for EREC and regulatory for NAFDAC. You can do both of them concurrent. For NAFDAC, practical workflows. You must have a preclinical readiness and regulatory readiness. Before you start going to NAFDAC, you go to their website, you know all the requirements they need, you have to get them ready. If you have gotten an EREC approval, all well and good, you now do your submission. The site investigator must have a certification, and they also have a GCP training. Certification in terms of what you say you want to do and ability to protect participants. There must be an ongoing evidence of ongoing safety monitoring, how you are going to report the SAE, and you must send in annual reports. There must be evidence how you are going to do documentation, archiving, and audit readiness. All this you have to get before you submit to NAFDAC. If you want to have a smooth NAFDAC submission, engage them early. It's better to have a pre-submission meeting with them, go to them, their clinical trial section, ask questions, what the requirements are, or go to the website, find out all information they need. Ensure harmonized documents for consistency across protocol, consent, and labeling. Not that you say 5 mils somewhere and you say 10 mils another place and you say 2 mils someplace. You have to be consistent. You must have your pharmacovigilance plan with adverse event timelines. Must also quality control for products data. There must be accurate translations and local specific formats, and then build buffer for regulatory review timeline. What it means that you must give yourself some extra time in case there are some delays. You are planning to start the clinical trial in 3 months because I said EREC will take 3 months. You now plan. No, you should give some buffer. The same thing with NAFDAC. So again, looking at practical workflow, ideas to deliverables. Stepwise pipeline, idea to concept notes to EREC align protocol. Remember, we talk about this thing. Stepwise, you need to have an idea. You consult all the stakeholders, ethicists, statisticians, everybody, develop a concept note, and then for concept, ensure that is aligned with EREC. You do an internal ethics review, better for you, revise and finalization before you even start going to EREC. Remember, I say you can do a parallel EREC and NAFDAC submission where possible. You must assess yourself for trial readiness, training, SOPs, data capture platforms. But also look at how you are going to monitor the data, how you are going to protect the data, and quality audits. And also post-trial, you must disseminate data stewardship and participants communication, meaning you must communicate the findings to the participants. Looking at data sharing and governance, you must have a data sharing agreement and governance structure in place in any study or any trial. If you are collaborating with international institutions, you must have that in place. You must let them know they will have Data Protection Act. The identification standards and governance of re-identification risk. What it means that the data you are sharing must be de-identified. You must also, EREC said after a study, you must keep this, your source documents, for at least 10 years. Post-trial, you must ensure and have where you can archive them. And you must respect Nigeria Data Protection Commission's cross-border data transfer agreements and safeguards. Common challenges we face when we are applying and practical solutions. One, delays in approval. You must plan in advance. You must have a pre-submission meeting. Eric had a desk officer. Get in touch with him, send a mail with him, and ask for information when you are not too sure. Or any of the members of EREC, get in touch with us, ask some questions before you submit. Remember, people say, why must I get consent form in Yoruba, Hausa, Yoruba, Pidgin, and all those ones? You have to make sure their materials are culturally tailored, because some people may not be able to understand English. The next is data privacy concerns. You must ensure that you are compliant with National Data Protection Act. This sponsor ethics session. You must, before you accept to work with a sponsor or a collaborator, you must understand the workings of EREC, their timeline, the workings of NACDAC, their timeline, and the commission. And then you inform them. These are the timeline. Researchers often exaggerate their prowess or their capacity to do, because you want to get the grants. And you are telling them, don't worry, NX says it's 3 months, but I'm going to get it in 1 week. No, tell them, this is, as you are planning, give it 3 months. However, if you get it a shorter time, that would be helpful. Ethics first. Tony, I'm sure you're looking at me, I'm rounding up. These are the essential documents you need. I've mentioned them. Remember, ethical diversity and community engagement is very important. We must respect cultural norms and adapt our consent and engagement strategies. 8-point workflow, snapshots, and I'll round up. Idea with ethics grounding. Your idea must be grounded in ethics. EREC align protocol. Protocol must align with EREC. Informed consent materials must be culturally sensitive. You must have a data protection plan. EREC approvals, NAFDAC readiness, training, trial setup and monitoring, dissemination and post-trial duties. Resources, these are resources, what you can read. EREC codes is available online. NAFDAC guideline for clinical trial available online. Please go to Nigerian Data Protection Regulation website. You can read a lot. GCP standards, pharmacovigilance norms. There's a number of templates, checklists that are available at EREC website and NAFDAC. Yeah. Closing and take-home messages. Start ethics, regulation, and data protection planning early. Engage stakeholders early and maintain clear documentation. A well-designed compliance study accelerates approvals and enhances research impact. Thank you and God bless you. Remember, there's a Google form. Please, I want you to complete. That will help with knowing the challenges you are facing in your submission, so we can see how we can address them. Thank you and God bless you. Over to you, Tony.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you. Yes, people, the Google form link is in the chat. Please, quickly, as we answer these questions that you have put in the Q&A, go in there and tell the National Health Ethics Research Committee what your problems are, so they can help us as researchers within and outside Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, again, for this presentation. You have a load of questions, and I'm going to say you're coming back next year, and we're going to make this a 2-part series because you loaded us with stuff and our head is spinning. But let's start with the first question. I wanted to be selfish to ask my question, but I won't. So let's start with the very first question from Dr. Choma Mbachu, who says, thank you very much, Prof. Sir, for your insightful presentation. Could you kindly provide further clarification on material transfer agreement for data that may be sent outside Nigeria? What are the steps involved and how can this be obtained?
For once you are there, what you call material transfer agreement. If you are transferring any material from Nigeria to outside the country, your local ethics committee cannot do that for you. Why that is done is because their local ethics committee might not know the complexities that are involved in those transfer of material. What will happen is that you get approval from your local ethics committee. Get the form, you can download, you can get the form for your local ethics committee or get it for download from NF website, complete it. You can hand it over to your local ethics committee to help you process it. So once they do that, you attach your ethical approval from your site and then attach completed form, which you have to sign, and your partner where you're going to transfer it also have to sign. Once you sign that, EREC endorses it, and then it becomes operational.
Okay, so the next question is from Chukwudi Ebuche, and he's saying, please, how do we know the local ethic committee that is registered with NREC?
It's easy to ask. Before you apply to ethics committee, what I will ask the ethics committee, what's your NREC registration number? Once they don't have that, that tells you they are not registered with NREC. NREC is also trying to populate on their website all the current, it's a new website. They are now trying to populate that. And I'm sure by early first part of this year, all registered ethics committee will be there. When in doubt, please ask.
Sir, Prof, it would be fine if you could also share the current NREC website. I know it's a new website. It's really very user-friendly and very nice. It'd be nice if you could put it in the chat. So your next question says, I hope the NDPA Act does not involve, that's from Ignatius Maduka, says, I hope the NDPA Act does not involve changing research data to suit national political interests.
One of the things I will answer, when people ask some of these questions, I don't particularly feel happy, especially when we have a good law that's trying to protect us. You know, data is the new currency. You have data that is living here. And you Nigerians, we are not benefiting from it. We are losing. They are not saying your data will not leave the country, but they want to know what is living. It has nothing political about it. Please, you can go and read the act yourself. There's nothing political about it. I can tell you that. We should know that act protects me and you. Material transfer agreement. I'm in research. I eat, wake up, and sleep with research. And I know that those acts, I'm not a politician, and I know they protect me. And I've been signing them for all any data that is leaving the country or any sample that is leaving the country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So Chukwudi Ebuche is asking again that you mentioned about the NREC review research involving more than 3 sites. So what exactly constitutes a site?
A site, for example, if I have a site in NIMA, I have a site in UNTH, and I have a site in BUK. It's already 3. We are not talking of feeder sites. We don't call it feeder site. You can have some clinics feeding into UNTH. That's not a site. They are not standalone. Those are recruitment sites. We are talking of a site. UNTH is doing a clinical trial in Enugu, and is domiciled in UNTH. But they have some other small clinics feeding into that. That's one site with a PI there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So my follow-up question from me, which some people will be asking. So if there are just two sites, the researcher, the PI can get ethical clearance from their local ethics committee, right?
Yes.
Once it hits 3, then it comes to you guys at the national.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
national level. Yes.
Okay. So Esther,
What I also tell people, when you are in doubt of anything ethical, please always ask questions. The NX website is on there
on the chat.
On the chat.
Okay. All right. So Esther Onyagaziri is saying, thank you for this lecture. It's been insightful. She has a couple of questions. If her research is going to cover 3 communities in a local government area in one state, will she need to get ethical clearance from the national rec?
No.
And then who would be, okay, that's no. Okay, the second question is, who would be the one to do the registrations with NREC? Is it the researcher or is it the institution where the researcher is based?
It's the PI, principal
Okay, which is
investigator. For every research, there's a lead investigator. It's his responsibility, technical and administrative responsibility to register the research.
Okay, so it says if someone sees her study after publication and wants to replicate the study in their own country and writes her for her data, does she need to apply to the Data Protection Committee before she makes such data available?
If you want to replicate the study, why is he asking for your data? If you want to replicate the study, he wants to replication. I mean that he wants to do the same study you did and generate the data. What is he doing with your data? That person asking who want to replicate the data but asking for the data doesn't want to do the data. He want to doctor your own data. You should not give that person. What you should give the person is your protocol.
Okay, yeah. So but even in giving that protocol, does he or she need to
No, you don't need to. No. Protocol, no. Remember that protocol for studies are published. You can publish your protocol. So anybody can pick it up from there.
Okay, so Victor Ndoma is asking, what does COI's conflict of interest under qualification mean?
Yeah, if you have if for example, I'm doing a drug trial to try a new drug, and my wife is the managing is the MD of that pharmaceutical company, I should declare it to clearly. There's nothing wrong in conflict of interest. It's not declaring of conflict of interest that is the problem. So if that company my wife is MD, is trying a new product, and I'm the principal investigator, I should inform the ethics committee that my wife is the MD of this or pharmaceutical company owning that product. If I don't declare it, I can be accused that my findings, I influence the findings.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Professor Maduka Ugasoro is thanking you for this presentation and says, can 2 or more ethics committee be constituted within a geographical range, such as a teaching hospital or university?
One institution can have more than one ethics committee. The reason is because you don't want ethics committee supposed to facilitate research. It's not supposed to slow research. Let me give you a typical example. The teaching, you go to university, teaching hospital is big enough to have the ethics committee. The university on its own can decide to have the ethics committee. Also in that university, if you go to social sciences, you might have one in College of Medicine and one in Faculty of Social Sciences. It's allowed as long as they are registered with ERIC, and they also make sure that they avoid what's called ethics shopping. Ethics shopping means if I go to the one in UNTH and they didn't approve it, I'll go to one in College of Medicine. If they approve it, I will go to the one in the School of Social Sciences. It's allowed by ERIC code, yes.
Okay, So
Just
based
a quick question. Just a quick question there, Prof. This is very important what you just mentioned. How do we monitor that that does not happen? Because that is a very important. There is proliferations, and how do you monitor and avoid ethics shopping? It is a real big problem, especially as we are beginning to see an increase in drug trials in Nigeria. And this is one of the places where harm is done. And we have been there before in Nigeria.
So what I do, and that's why the reason why institutions should have strong institutional policy. A staff of NIMA cannot go to University of Lagos to get an ethics approval. When I was chair of NIMA Ethics Committee, if I see a request for ethical approval from a researcher from University of Lagos, before even reviewed, I will ask you for, I said, I need your ethical approval from University of Lagos. That's the way you can avoid ethics shopping. If somebody from College of Medicine is UNN is go to Park Lane to request for ethical approval, the chair of ethics committee in Park Lane is supposed to request for the person to bring an ethics, because your ethical approval starts from your institution. You can, once somebody jumps his institution, something is wrong, because that's where you're supposed to start. So that's, for me, that's the way you can easily dictate it. When somebody jumps his local, there's a hall. Yeah, when somebody jumps, Headlines Foundation, please can you mute? When somebody joins his primary institution without obtaining ethics approval and go to another institution, that's a red flag. Is either that protocol has been rejected by institution, or he have included some things that are not true that he's hiding. Prof, thank you for joining us. I know you are far away in Tunisia.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. So from more questions from Professor Ugasoro, he's saying, based on the statutory to monitor approved protocols, whose role is it to decide the range beyond which authorization is not given or approved?
Professor Ugasoro, let me answer you. UNTH will not go and approve a study that will be done in Lagos. It can't even go and approve a study that will be done in Anambra State, because there's another ethics committee in Anambra State. So you already know when you are overreaching, this is not trying to grab protocol that comes from everywhere. If you are a UNTH and the protocol comes from Anambra State and the person is not a staff of UNTH, you should ask questions. Why did it go to Anambra State Ethics Committee? Why did it go to Odumegwu University Ethics Committee? Those are the questions you should ask. And that's why there's a secretariat. Secretariat is supposed to clear all these things before you even go for ethical approval.
Okay. So his last question here is, must all protocols be submitted to the ethics committee for approval before field or data collection? And what's the place for exemption?
It's not for the researcher to decide whether you are going to get an exemption or not. What you think requires exemption is not you that determines it. It's only an ethics committee that can decide whether you qualify for full committee review, special review, or exemption. It's not the researcher, it's not in your purview. Send your protocol to ethics committee and request for what you want. They will look at it on these merits and grant you. It's also important for you, even if you are having a waiver, for researchers, even if you are having a waiver, have an approval from ethics committee giving you that waiver. Where you have a problem when you want to publish that data, and that high impact journal asks you for ethics approval or a waiver, and you don't have it, you know, the work you've done is wasted. So please always go to ethics committee, get that waiver, and when it's required, you attach the waiver number certificate.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Promise Taris Onyema says, thank you for the wonderful presentation. She deeply appreciates you. And she's asking, how can ethical balance be measured in high-risk research to ensure protection of human rights against compromised scientific research?
Yeah, it's a skill. It's not what every researcher can do. And that's why you need to have a team. There's some person that you're a doctor, you're so and so, may not qualify you to know the risk. And what we do is a balance. One single risk can tilt all the benefits. So it's something that is a skill that is learned. Somebody sits down do that, a team looks at it and decide where the balance is. When you submit to ethics committee is also doing that. Apart from reviewing the science, they can also give it somebody who has that skill to also do that. What I always tell people is that you cannot have all the skill. You have a team. Train somebody who can do that risk-benefit analysis for you. And that person does that for all your protocols. Don't always say, because I'm the PI, I'm the professor, I know every aspect of research work. No, it's a teamwork. Train people so that people take time to do that component. And it's not something you just look and see. You have to place every risk and every potential risk and every potential benefit and then weigh them. There's usually a format or something, an instrument you can use to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
A number of them exist. A number of them exist. You can download some of them and get trained on how to use them.
Okay. So we have a question from Odumorayo Adeyeye, and she's saying, thank you, Professor Oliver, for your powerful and insightful presentation. Her first question is it possible or advisable to apply or obtain double or multiple ethical approvals for a research project that is to be carried out in a geopolitical zone or institution? For example, if there are more than one HREX in an institution, can ethical approval be applied for or obtained from the two HREX purposely because of delay in approval from one?
No. He who wants to go, who wants equity must go with clear hand. We are clean hands. Just like you cannot submit two manuscripts to say two journals at the same time. That's unethical. You cannot deliberately submit your protocol to two ethics committee. What it means that you know you're already doing something that is wrong. Why is it important to encourage multiple ethics committee in one institution? With time, people will gravitate to that one that approves ethics faster. There's a time in Lagos that we keep getting a lot of ethics protocol because people are coming to us because we don't follow that 3 months. Waiting 2 weeks, if there's no issues, even within 1 week, you get approval. We start having a lot of NGOs coming to us in Lagos. So please, it's unethical for you to apply to two ethics committee.
Okay, so she's also saying, is there a penalty for anyone who does that?
You can be sanctioned. You can be sanctioned. You can be sanctioned.
Okay, so Victoria Ndoma is asking, what does the DPIA, and I believe that's Data Protection Impact Assessment.
Impact assessment.
What does DPIA mean in conduct DPIA where privacy exists?
Yeah, what it means that if I'm going, there's some studies I want to do that have to do with personal issues, personal private things. That if it goes out there, can it harm entire community, individual, or affect their work? I need to do that DPIA to see, just like you do, if you are going to construct new industry or do something somewhere, you have to do impact assessment. So it's exactly similar thing. What would be impact of sharing that data on that community or those individuals? If their information leaks out, some of those private details, how would they impact on the life of those individuals? Thank you.
Okay. So Pauline is asking, she's thank you for the lecture, and she says many universities in Nigeria make it a rule that academic staff must publish in high impact journals like Thomson Reuters before promotion. So that's the reason why academics are struggling to publish there, leaving the local journals behind. So how can her first question is, how can we make the university academic regulators understand the need to promote local journals? That's the first question. And her second question is that in universities, we supervise both undergraduate and postgraduate students. So how can we guide them to do impactful research that will have local relevance within a specified period? Especially where you were talking about that any proposal that will be sent to the national rec must have the cultural or the local context of the environment where the study is being carried out.
Yeah, let me start with two things. What it means that those local journals, what is making them not to be PubMed index, Scopus index, or high impact? Because of quality issues. And that's why universities are not taking them. Some people have become professors, they open a journal, publish, they become professors, the journal dies. If you go and check, Nigeria has the largest number of journals, and only less than 10% are PubMed or Scopus index. Why so? The high impact journals, because of the quality they bring in, the review process, and that's why the university, because the thing about it, when you publish in the Scopus or PubMed index journal, your address of your university is there, and those are the things they need for the ranking of universities. But if you publish in almost a journal of Ops and Guiding, it's not even online. Nobody knows about it. That means you've wasted, you become a professor, and nobody knows about you. But when I publish in a high impact journal, my name is known, Nigerian Institute of Medical Research is known, that we can do this. And the work you've done is globally visible. And because of the quality, what we should do is a mixture of the two. When you are younger and you are moving, you can mix the two, local, but there's a level you get to. You can't be associate professor going to professorship and you expect to have only journal coming from Enugu Journal of Ops and Guiding. That would not be, are you going to be professor for Enugu or professor for Lagos alone? You are going to be a global citizen, so you need to publish in those journals.
Yeah, thank you.
Then let me also address this issue.
The second question about
the second question is that,
Prof, I have a
you
question
must
on the
make
first
sure.
issue.
Eh?
I have a question on the first issue.
Okay, go on.
So can I, I know you digged me by calling my village in the place and our journal in the village. When you said that, so that is my village journal. But there's no journal like that. But that's my village. So the question I have to you is this: when you mentioned it, this was very critical. So if a Nigerian journal fights and improves its standard such that it is listed on PubMed, why wouldn't the university recognize such journal? Because to me, I agree with you. Those journals that are not on PubMed or Scopus, they are sometimes substandards. They don't read very well. They don't do very well. But there are some Nigerian journals that have done well and got their place in place. Why shouldn't those people, even if they're not 3.4 and all of those things, why are they not regarded? Because that will encourage, first of all, for the Nigerian journals to seek that standard, because some of those standards is that they're published 4 times a day, they have a review committee, and this, some of the requirement. If they meet that, why wouldn't the university consider that as a strong journal? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a university that are not accepting PubMed index journal. I'm not aware. Minimum, the university, most of you insist on at least minimum PubMed index journal. I'm not aware of that. I still want to know that university that are not accepting them. But we do overgeneralization. There should be a mixture in your publication. There should be a mixture of the high, the medium, and the low, especially when you are much younger. But as you climb and become associate senior lecturer, you expect all your publications to be minimum PubMed indexed. Then coming to the students and
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, coming to the students and this, one of the things when we go around to do ethics committee training have happened is that students will do their masters and PhD work, and then supervisor want to be the first author. That is unethical. Except you are saying you did that work for the students. For a student's master's program, thesis, and for a PhD thesis, that student should be the first author because it's expected that he did the work. And if you claiming that you did the work for the student, what it means that that student doesn't merit the master's and the PhD. So if you want their students to publish in high impact journal, support them, guide them, make sure their research is of quality so that they can also publish in a journal of repute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Lazarus has another question. It says, in a community survey, which approach can be taken to implement the feedback of the findings?
In a community, in short, in any research you do, participants are supposed to be first set of people that you disseminate your findings. They are the first set of people. And then that community where you also did the study. The essence of this is that together, in case there's a negative findings, all of you can start putting head together on how to disseminate that findings. If you do a work in my village, and the next thing I see on the paper is that women, young women from Umuze, that their husband tend to die before 40 years of age. That's what their study has shown. What if nobody will come to Umuze to marry any woman? You've damaged that community completely. Yeah. And that is why you must disseminate to that community so that people, when you are publishing, the name of the town might not come out. Those are the things that early dissemination helps, so that you start framing how you disseminate that findings. So it's unethical for you not to disseminate to the community, to the participants in that research. So I just gave this example to know the impact of some of the things, overuse of a name of a community in our publications. Some reviewers keep insisting the name of the place must be in the title. Occasionally, it can be damaging to that community. So I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah, so Chukwudi Eguche is also asking, what happens to already published data that did not follow the strict operations of the NREC?
Already published data?
Yes.
Published in a journal, or you collected your data?
Published,
is it that you collected the data, not published, or published already?
No, already published in a journal.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, one of the things I've learned in this our work, your failures and your sins only catch up with you when you don't expect. You know what happens with research? Repercussion comes when you least expect it. It might be a retirement. Well, for that person, just say, I'm born again, and from now on, I must follow ethical requirement for what I want to do. I have some, before I got into ethics, doing residency and all those, there's some data I collected, but I couldn't use them again. When my eye opened and I got born again ethically, I knew I cannot use them again.
Okay, so Dr. Rosemary is asking two questions. She's asking, what are the factors that should be considered before obtaining informed consent from participants in research studies conducted within Nigeria? That's our first question.
Please please, can you repeat the question again?
Okay, she wants to know the factors that need to be considered before obtaining informed consent from research participants in studies conducted within Nigeria.
Clearly, you must make comprehension is very important. You must also know that the person is competent. And competent means in terms of age, in terms of cognitive ability, in terms of ability to read and write. So these are some of the things you have to. And the age is very important. Whether you're going to do an assent, please, if you go to the EREC website, a typical informed consent is there. And what guides you to what you do is also there. Yeah.
Okay. She's also asking, what are the strategies that researchers can employ to ensure cultural sensitivity and community engagement in their studies, considering that Nigeria is a very diverse place?
What you do always involve community engagement. When I'm from the Southeast, I'm an Igbo man, and I want to work in Southwest or work, so you should get somebody who understands that community working with you as a team. And large teams have what they call community engagement experts. There are some people who is their specialty. They know how to do that. You get somebody from that who understands the culture, who will work with you, and that's why you have to engage the community very early in your planning stage. When you do that, they'll tell you, you cannot do this, you cannot do this, this is not allowable, this is allowable. So you need somebody who understands that culture.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So Dr. Sagir Mohammed is asking, what do you think about ethical considerations for a randomized controlled trial where aspirin and calcium is compared with usual care for prevention of preeclampsia in low-risk pregnant women? The setting has high burden for the disease. Our setting has high burden for that disease. What do you think?
The only thing I can tell you, I don't want to look at specific research, but the only thing I can tell you, for you to do a research, a clinical trial, must be what we call clinical equipoise. And clinical equipoise means that after review of the literature, there's something shows that this is likely to be beneficial, but there's no evidence that is beneficial. So you must be at that balance for you to be able to do that research. If there's something already existing that is, we know preeclampsia is a disease of theories. Now we don't have a treatment for it. So what it means that the minimum you can do now is that for standard of care now is to, in prevention, we don't even have what to go a gold standard in prevention of preeclampsia for now. What we do now is just a disease of speculation. When it happens, we manage the blood pressure, we manage all those. But if somebody come up with something that can deal with a multi-systemic disease like preeclampsia, it's not only just the hypertension. You can, a clinical trial, but it's you, the researcher, have to justify in your literature review, in your justification, you must say clearly there and show there's a clinical equipoise before you are allowed by ethics committee to do that work.
Okay. Okay. So Dr. Macho also is asking another question. What about data that's already registered in a data repository? How is that handled?
Yeah, is it? But remember, registering with the Data Protection Agency is your institution. It's your institution that does that, not individual. when your institution does that, they gave you a registration. You have a registration. So what it means by on yearly basis, your institution reports to them activity of their staff. It's not you as an individual going to register with them. So for me, Naima have registered with them. There are some things I don't bother myself about because I already have that registration. So your institution should give you that protection. And your data management team already know what can be shared and what cannot be shared based on this law. So I think what you should do, somebody
I
from
also want to question. I want to twist the question a bit. What if she's talking about use of data from already existing data in data repositories? Because that's the way I'm seeing it.
the secondary data analysis, that data is already existing now. You are not going to export somebody's data.
So
Agency is
we don't need to come to NREC, right?
No. What they are money about generated data, and you are transferring it to another institution. Now, there's a lot of Nigerians who are like a collection site. You finish collecting data, and now you carry the whole data and send to one university in the US. That what is against.
Okay.
The primary owner of the data is the Nigerian institution. Once you generate data in Nigeria, the primary owner is that institution in Nigeria that generated the data. And then you can discuss how data can be shared.
Okay. So Dr. Stephanie Bemere is saying, this is a great session. Thank you, sir. That there are many changes happening now with journals requiring data availability. Do you have any suggestions on what we as researchers can do to protect data coming out of Nigeria, but also be collaborative at the same time? It seems like the NDPA is paramount in this, but she's wondering if you have other thoughts about this.
Yeah, I quite agree. Because of why journalists are beginning to ask about your data is because people are reporting things there's no data. Paper generated on the computer. That's why they are that's why they are requesting for you to do that. You have an option to say, no, I'm not sending my data, but I can send you some supplementary data already analyzed, not the raw data. I will not send my raw data to a journal, but I can send some supplementary attachments. You know, when you publish a paper, it might not be all the data that supports that paper that the journal might allow you. They have a table limitation. Yes.
Limits,
so they can ask you to submit the other ones as supplementary. So that if anybody wants to go there and confirm what you are saying, you can do that. No journal will expect you to submit your raw data, entire raw data. No. It's supplementary data that supports that paper you already reported.
Okay.
So, Prof, I wanted to ask this question to help understand this as we're talking about it. And one of the things people should understand, when you are conducting human subject research, which is a lot of what we're discussing today, may be different from when you are conducting basic research on animals and things like that. So, but when you are conducting human subject, you have to understand, no matter where the university is, the IRB on record is NREC.
Yeah.
So if this is Harvard and you're working with Harvard, the Harvard IRB cannot and should not trump NREC IRB. So they will take NREC and get an IRB in Harvard, but the IRB on record is NREC. And that's something that people need to understand because that's where the human lives. Unless they live at Harvard and in Boston. But if they live in Nigeria, the IRB on record is NREC. And that relies so that when a journal comes in, the one person who can request for your raw data is NREC.
Yeah.
Because if there's a complaint about your study that you fabricated data, if an NREC can request the data source to review that. And this has happened in cases that I know, and they were saved because NREC reviewed that data and wrote a letter and said, we have reviewed this data and we found no such thing. And they set a panel, including inviting somebody from Harvard or whatever your collaborator is. But that saves you when the IRB on record say we have reviewed this data and we don't see any violation. They will say who was the panel that reviewed it, Where did they come from? And sometimes they will pick your funding agency to even sit on that review. But the only one who can look, because it's a raw data is intellectual property that is protected. The only one that have that access is NREC. Sorry, Prof. I wanted to add that so people don't understand that these are practical things that have already happened. One of the journals recently, we succeeded in making them put their data journal to put their publication. And that's because they're trying to do those kind of things. So this is important for people to know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for adding this.
Yeah, thank you. So Imelda Chukwu is thanking you for your presentation and asking that is there a requirement for consent form translation to different languages? Is there a requirement that that must be done for all research? For instance, if your study is targeted at lecturers in a university, scholars, you still need to translate that consent form for them to another language other than English.
You don't need to. You don't need, because they can understand English. No.
Yes. Okay.
So I have a question. I have a question here, and this is practical, Prof, to help us understand. So somebody was doing something, and they said this, and this was a discussion in our team, and they wanted to send it to a lot of people speak Igbo, but they can't read Igbo. So that if you actually translate that to Igbo, you actually have made them not able to understand those consent.
Yes.
So some of the things we have done, and I want to ask you what you think about it, has been actually to have them become in those places where we know, okay, these people may not be all English, but they speak Igbo well, but they can't read Igbo. So we have those documents administered by order. So where we have trained research coordinators administer those things to them so that they can even explain it in Igbo, in the spoken Igbo. But we don't translate it in Igbo and written Igbo and give to them to read, thinking that because they're Igbo people, they can read Igbo. So that is something that people have to take into consideration in designing those consent forms and deciding when to translate. Those are some of the things you can consider. Another one is that you can also get consent by recording those consent so that you read it in Igbo because they understand the Igbo, spoken Igbo, but they cannot read Igbo. So they can play it, read it, so they can say, speak it in Igbo, what you want to write, and then ask them if they have any question. So there are some adaptations you can do to the consent to make sure that translation is not, in the initial time, we thought that if you translate to the local language, you have done the job. But if you translate Igbo to me, for example, I speak Igbo very well, but I may not be able to read Igbo. So that is something that you have to be careful. I don't know what you have to say about those kind of adaptations to make sure that that's correct.
Excellent, excellent input, Prof. Actually, that what NREC is the NREC wants you to ensure comprehension. Want you to ensure comprehension, not by translating. Translating it, and the person does not understand what you mean. That's not the intent of NREC. NREC wants you to get across to the participant the best way possible for them to understand what you do. And Prof, what you said is the right way to do it. Just like you said, you can have a patient advocate who understands, who is independent from the research team, that understands the protocol, understands informed consent, and can pass it to them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So Valentine is asking, what if his primary institution doesn't have expertise to review his research proposal?
You can go to a neighboring institution around you, that's NREC, or you can request to NREC to send it to somebody, to an ethics committee. But how do you know? But how do you know their primary institution doesn't have the expertise?
That's
researchers, we are Zoom so much. When I was chairman of ethics committee, I have a pool of experts that are not within NIMA that will still send our protocol to review. You can have an ethics committee. You might not have all the experts within your facility, but they can have a team of reviewers who reviews the protocol scientifically for them. Remember, ethics committee in Nigeria look at both the ethics and science of what you submit.
Yeah.
So I want to add here, and just to say from my experience working with NIMA and in many different research in Nigeria, is to say they are very conscious about even finding the experts. So your application to NIMA are sometimes not only reviewed by NIMA members that are there, they will reach out to content expertise in expert in the country to ask them to review some studies, and that is how every ethic committee around the world works. It doesn't mean it's only the 5 people or 7 people that are on the NIMA board that review. They will die of work if they only of them are available to review that. So it's important that researchers in Nigeria actually volunteer when NIMA asks for them to review grant, to understand that as you review other people, then other people are available to review a grant. That is one way we can support faster that IRB reviews or proposal review by NIMA. By being that expert, standard NIMA define what that expert means to them. But when they reach out to you, for you to at least say yes, because you cannot review your own proposal, somebody else will. But by reviewing somebody's proposal, if all of us chip in there or anybody they call, then we are trying to make the process even better. That's one way I think we can help NIMA, and is to say yes when they ask. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. EREC is also doing that. EREC have a pool of experts that any protocol you send to EREC, be rest assured that people who are qualified to look at them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So Dr. Ishak Lawal is asking, is there a difference in application process for a waiver? And what are the conditions for research to qualify to have a waiver?
You send your protocol, complete documentation, and then request in your cover letter, why that you need a waiver and why you think you qualify for a waiver. Then the secretariat will look at it, and if you are qualified for a waiver, you get it. Yeah.
Okay. Then Dr. Zainab Adebite is thanking you for the presentation and says, what are the processes to have a local institutional ethics committee in a private hospital? That's the first question.
The challenge is that, which kind of private hospital? Is it a one-man clinic or is it a multi-specialist clinic? I know of a multi-specialist clinic with ethics committee. But before you do that, EREC have to come and assess you. It's not just to put up something. EREC, before you get that registration, that you have an ethics committee. If it's not recognized by EREC, it's not an ethics committee. So EREC will come and do that and make sure that you have this. I know of a multi-specialist clinic that have an ethics committee that a lot of people from outside the country, a lot of people from outside the institution are members of that. They draw expertise from outside their institution to ensure that they have a quality ethics committee. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, her second question is, what is the ethical process, and I think you've described this during your presentation, of doing a genomic study that involves transfer of samples abroad?
You have to get your protocol and documentation to your local IRB, if it's only a single institution. And when you finish that and get that approval, you get your MTA, download it, complete it, you sign it, your partner where is going to sign it, and then with the approval is sent by your local IRB to EREC. And they look at it and see, is that something that can be done in Nigeria? If it's something that can be done in Nigeria, the question would be, why are you sending it out of the country? Why can't there be local capacity to do that? I can tell you a number of institutions in Nigeria that can do genomic studies. NIMA can do that. Redeem University, there's a number of universities in Nigeria that can do whole genome sequencing in the country.
Okay.
I think
So
one thing to add
find
here.
out why you want to send it out of the country. Is it quality assurance samples, or do you want to send the whole samples? You know, you can do the whole 500 samples here, but you're taking maybe 10 for quality assurance. samples. So you have to state clearly what it's for.
What if the facilities are not available here?
For
and
what?
that's why the sample
For
is
genomics.
transferred.
Which kind of genomics are not available in the country? I want to know. The person should ask questions. I said the person should ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah. It's easy for us to stay in an institution and assume that things are not available in the country.
Yeah, we have a lot of genomics labs now in Lagos, especially.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Professor Gasser is back and is saying he wants to understand this waiver and exemption thing. What is it about? What is being waived actually? What is being exempted? Is it the consent? Is it the research? What exactly would that be?
One, it have to be decided whether what you are a research or non-research determination, whether what you are doing is research or not, and then the level of the risk involved in that research. These are whether it needs a full committee review or it needs an exemption or it needs a waiver. If it's a non-research determination, that means you are doing something like a training or something like that non-human research or something like those ones, you get your waiver. But if the risk is not more than the everyday risk we face going to work, you cannot get an exempt. But once you hear things like children, marginalized population is a full committee review. Pregnant women, vulnerable group is a full committee review. This is just a rough idea, but it's only ethics committee can decide. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully the last question is from Professor Onochiokwe, and he's saying, insightful and illuminating presentation by you. Regarding the role of our local institutions in promoting IRB, HREC compliance and high impact research, is there any place for IRB incentivization? What practical measures would you recommend?
Well, I can tell you for NIMA, reviewers in NIMA are paid. NIMA IRB charges fees, but it's not fees. And in the NREC document, NREC code, it's clearly stated that IRBs can charge fees. There are some IRBs that are waiting for the management to give them money to have their meetings, and they only have meetings once in 2 years. IRB should be able to generate the resources to be able to have their regular meetings. So what it means that NREC can decide the fees they charge, but it should not be fees that becomes unaffordable. And the fees should be tailored. Is it a master's level? Is it a PhD? Is it a funded project? You know, that kind of thing. That's what NIMA does. But in NIMA, none is more than 100,000, irrespective of whether it's funded by NIHO, it's funded by anybody. It cannot be more than that. The essence is not to charge the fee. The essence is to generate some resources so that you can pay for recharge cards of people who are reviewing, because they need to go online. They need to. So those are little incentives. And but what we do when I was chairman of NIMA ethics committee, if you don't review, when I send to you to review people's protocol, when you send your own to me, I'll keep it. Nobody will review it because you don't review other people's own. So that's also an incentive. If you review, we know our fast review. I'm just sharing with you what I did when I was the chairman. I know my fast reviewers, people who review very fast, very thorough content also. So if you are one of those people who do that, when I get your approval, I also send it to fast reviewers. If you are one of the people who, when I send to you, you say you are busy, you keep it for 3 months. When I get your own, I also give it to that person who keeps it for 6 months.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's an incentive. Is it not an
Yeah,
incentive?
it's
If
an
you don't
incentive in the negative
review, nobody reviews your own.
well,
If you keep the protocol for 3 months, so
kind
when
of
your
like
own comes, people also keep it for 3 months. If you are people
But-
who are very responsive, you also have responsive reviewers. That's an incentive apart from the monetary.
So, Prof, if you see, if hello, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
So you can see some of the other ways that we can also do this by giving an award to those people who actually review fast. So we can use a positive incentive to do that. And then the other thing that we can also do for the people that, just like journals, some journals ask me to review, and I really want them to pass on to younger people to review so they can have the experience. So there are some other reasons that people don't review. It's one thing. So I think there are two things I want to help us differentiate here. People, if you're asked to review, you can say no. That's a different thing from you saying yes and then keeping the person's work, right? Well, keeping it for 6 months. So there's a different thing to say, I'm abroad on holiday, my mother just died, I don't have the time to review, than saying yes and then keeping it for 6 months. So those are two different things. So I wanted you to clarify that.
I don't worry about people who they are abroad or they are busy at that time saying, please, I'm not able to review now. But there are some people who chronically, they will never review any protocol, but they are sending. They say they are very busy, but they keep sending other people to review their protocol. But you now send them a protocol in their area of expertise, and they will not review it. Some will decline. Some will decline and say, I don't have time. But you are sending your protocol for people who have time to review your protocol. If everybody claims being too busy, scholarship would just die a natural death. So, Tonya, I need to go. I have another meeting by 6.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we want to thank you profusely. I mean, it's been a record number of questions, 32 questions and more. I didn't actually read out a lot of the questions. So 32 questions you answered. I mean, it's a record number, and people staying back to listen. They want more. Like I said, this should be 2 sessions. And please, you will oblige us when we call on you next year and for 2 webinars, and a lot of people want to come back and get more from you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. I'll just leave the last few words with our director, the director for the Ivan Research Institute, Professor Eche Ezanole. Prof, over to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, I'm in Tunisia, but I thought this was that important that I wanted to participate, and I'm great that I did because I did learn a lot, and I'm sure so many people that are here did. I also want to take the chance to thank Ado, the NREC DEX officer, for really being here. We bug him too much, and I just want to use the opportunity to say thank you because we know the work that goes into. I have been an IRB chair for an institution. It is a selfless job, like you said. Just like you thank reviewers who review these things. So if they ask you to review, please do, because we all review when we're asked by NREC. That is the only way we as a country can make our national IRB stronger. The national IRB is a strength for Nigeria. Everywhere you go, I am presenting here in Tunisia, and our team is showing what our study at 12 sites in all these 6 regions, approved by NREC. It is something everybody was coming to us. You have a national IRB that works? Yes, we do. And the only way that's going to even get better is to say yes when you are asked to review. So thank you, Professor Zechi, for this. And like Professor Nyeka said, we look forward to next year again. Every year for sure, we want to review what's new. Already we have our topic for NREC next year. What's new with NREC? So where you can come and tell us, okay, what's new for 2026? So thank you so much, and we appreciate all you do. Thank you. Back to you, Professor.
Thank you so much. Tonya, thank you. And Eche, thank you so much. Enjoy yourself into this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And everyone, please, if you need the slides from Professor Ezechi and previous webinars, just head on to our website, www.ivaninstitute.org. We have previous slides there. We also have a YouTube channel, so it's recorded there in our YouTube channel. We'll send around the links through the emails. Next month, December, we have the mother of all webinars, and please, Pathways in Medicine 4. Endeavor to, when you get the flyers, share the flyers out and attend. I promise you, it is the mother of all webinars in December. You can't afford to miss it. Thank you so much for staying up to this time, 2 hours as opposed to 1 hour with us. This was really very interesting, and we appreciate that you stayed to the end. Thank you so much, and have a nice rest of the week. Bye-bye.